He was the Korean billionaire everyone feared. Cold. Ruthless. Untouchable. But in his heart, one mistake haunted him. He had abandoned her. His African wife. The woman everyone laughed at. She gave him 3 years of her life. 3 years of love, laughter, and loyalty. 3 years of building a home in a country that never fully accepted her. 3 years of learning his language, his culture, his family's impossible expectations. And when the test results finally came. Twin boys growing in her womb. She sat in that cold clinic alone, tears streaming down her face. Happy tears. Grateful tears. She couldn't wait to tell him. But he called her first. Marlena, you have failed to give me a son, this marriage is over. Just like that. No warning. No apology. No acknowledgement of everything she had sacrificed. Only the sound of her world collapsing in silence. His mother had found him a Korean woman. A woman who would give him a son. A proper woman. A worthy woman. A woman who understood what the Kim family name demanded. So he signed the divorce papers without blinking. Packed her belongings by himself. And never looked back. He never knew she was pregnant. She made sure of that. If he didn't want her, he didn't deserve them. For 7 years, she raised 2 boys alone. Worked double shifts. Skipped meals. Smiled through the pain. All for 2 boys with their father's sharp eyes. Their father's stubborn jaw. Their father's entire face staring back at her every single morning. Then one cold Tuesday in Seoul, an unexpected visitors changed everything. The office door opened. 2 little boys walked into the most powerful boardroom in Korea. Tall for their age. Sharp, confident. Eyes that mirrored him perfectly. Looked up at the man sitting at the head of the table. And without hesitation, without knowing what it would cost, called him something he never deserved. Father. Don't go anywhere, because this story is just getting started. Stay glued to see every shocking twist, and don't forget to like, subscribe so you never miss a single moment of this story, and tell us where you are watching from in the comments. Back to the story. The word did not echo. It exploded. Park Jin-woo felt it in his chest before he processed it in his mind. The boardroom fell into suffocating silence. 12 executives. 2 legal advisors. 1 government representative. No one moved. No one breathed. The 2 boys stood confidently in the middle of the polished marble floor, dressed in neat navy suits that looked too mature for their young age. They weren't scared. They weren't confused. They were certain. Jin-woo slowly rose from his chair at the head of the table. His expression did not change. But his fingers tightened against the table. What did you say? He asked calmly. The taller twin stepped forward. His voice steady. We said. Father. A few executives shifted uncomfortably. Security hovered near the door, unsure whether to intervene. Jin-woo studied them carefully. The eyes. Sharp. Focused. Identical to his own. The jawline. The posture. The confidence. His heart skipped once, just once. What are your names? He asked. Daniel. And David. The second twin tilted his head slightly. Daniel Park. David Park. The room froze. Park. His name. His bloodline. That wasn't coincidence. Jin-woo's voice hardened. Who told you to come here? The boys exchanged a look. No one told us, Daniel said. We came because we wanted to meet you. Why? David answered this time. Because our mother said a powerful man isn't always a good one. We wanted to see which one you are. A murmur rippled across the boardroom. Jin-woo felt something unfamiliar tightening in his chest. Anger. Shock. Fear. Who is your mother? He asked quietly. And that was when the boardroom doors opened again. Every executive turned. Every breath stalled. Marlena walked in. Not the Marlena he remembered. Not the woman who once stood quietly behind him at charity galas, trying to smile through whispered insults. This Marlena moved with authority. Confidence wrapped around her like silk. Her heels echoed across the marble floor with measured precision. She wore a tailored cream suit, minimal jewelry, no sign of hesitation in her eyes. 7 years had not broken her. They had rebuilt her. Their eyes met. For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. Jin Woo's face remained controlled. But his pulse betrayed him. "Marlena," he said. Her name felt foreign in his mouth. "Chairman Park," she replied coolly. "Not Jin Woo. Not husband. Chairman." The distance in that single word was louder than any scream. "You brought them here?" he asked. "No," she answered calmly. "They insisted." The twins stood tall beside her. He looked from her to them. Back to her. His mind raced backward 7 years. The hospital hallway. The divorce papers. The cold words he had spoken. "You failed to give me a son." His throat tightened. "They are," he began. "Yes," Marlena said, cutting him off. "They are your sons." Silence detonated across the room. One of the executives dropped his pen. Another whispered, "Impossible." But the resemblance was undeniable now. Jin Woo's carefully constructed composure cracked for the first time in years. "You were pregnant," he said. It wasn't a question. Marlena's expression didn't soften. "I was." "You never told me." She held his gaze. "You never asked." The words sliced deeper than anger ever could. His mother's voice echoed in his memory. "She must give you a son." And now. Two stood in front of him. 7 years old. Strong. Intelligent. Fearless. "What do you want?" he asked. "Business instinct. Always direct." Marlena's lips curved slightly. "This isn't about money." Daniel stepped forward. "We just wanted to see you." David added quietly. "And decide for ourselves." Jin Woo swallowed. "Decide what?" "If you're worth knowing." The boardroom tension became unbearable. His entire life, people had tried to earn his approval. Now 2 7-year-old boys were evaluating him. Marlena placed a gentle hand on their shoulders. "We won't interrupt your meeting any further." She turned slightly toward the door. But Daniel looked back. "Mother said you chose legacy over love." David's eyes locked onto his. Was it worth it? The question hit harder than any accusation. Jin Woo couldn't answer. For the first time in his life. He didn't have the right words. Marlena guided the boys toward the door. But before stepping out, she paused. "By the way," she said calmly without turning around. "I am the primary investor your company has been negotiating with for the Global Horizon expansion." The room went still again. The government representative looked shocked. One of the executives whispered, "She's the anonymous international backer." Marlena finally turned to face him fully. "Yes. I am." Jin Woo's world tilted. The billion-dollar project his company desperately needed was in her hands. She gave him one last look. Not bitter. Not emotional. Just steady. "You once said I failed you." Her eyes flickered briefly to the twins. "I think life corrected that misunderstanding." Then she walked out. Taking his sons with her. Leaving Park Jin-woo standing in the center of his empire. Feeling smaller than he ever had in his life. And for the first time. Power felt useless. The boardroom stayed silent long after Marlena and the twins walked out. No one dared to speak. Park Jin-woo remained standing at the head of the table, staring at the closed doors like they might open again and tell him this was some elaborate illusion. But it wasn't. The resemblance was too strong. The confidence in their eyes. The way they spoke without fear. They were his. And deep down, he knew it. Chairman Park, one of the executives finally whispered, "Should we continue the meeting?" Jin-woo slowly sat down. No. His voice was steady. But something underneath it had shifted. Meeting adjourned. The room emptied quickly. Within minutes, he was alone. For 7 years, he had convinced himself that divorcing Marlena was necessary. Strategic. Inevitable. His mother had presented it as survival. You cannot build an empire with a weak foundation, she had said. But today, that foundation cracked. His phone buzzed. It was his mother. As if she sensed the disturbance. Jin-woo, her sharp voice came through, "I heard there was an incident at the company." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked quietly. "Did you know?" Silence. "Know what?" she replied carefully. "That Marlena was pregnant." Another silence. Longer this time. "Impossible," his mother finally said. "She would have told us." "She didn't," Jin-woo replied. "And she had twins." The line went completely still. "That is not possible," she repeated, but her tone had lost some certainty. "They walked into my boardroom today." His mother's voice hardened instantly. "This is manipulation." "No," he said firmly. "This is truth." He ended the call before she could argue further. For the first time in his life, he didn't want her advice. He wanted answers. 2 days later, he needed confirmation that the tens were his, so a private DNA test was arranged. Discreet. Confidential. Only 3 people knew. Jin-woo, Marlena, and the medical director. They met at a high-end medical facility in Seoul. The twins were calm. Too calm. Daniel observed everything carefully. David studied Jin-woo with quiet intensity. "Are you nervous?" Daniel asked him suddenly. Jin-woo blinked. He wasn't used to being questioned. "No." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "You should be." Marlena hid a small smile. The sample collection was quick. Now they waited. The waiting was worse than any negotiation Jin-woo had ever endured. He had built billion-dollar deals with less tension than this. Finally, the director entered the room. Envelope in hand. "Chairman Park," he said respectfully, "the results are conclusive." Jin-woo didn't take the envelope immediately. He looked at Marlena first. She didn't look anxious. She looked prepared. The director continued. "You are the biological father of both boys." A 99.99% match. The air shifted. There it was. Not rumor. Not assumption. Fact. Daniel looked at David. David looked at Jin-woo. "So," David said quietly, "you're really our father." "I don't want to have a daddy like you," he said. Jin-woo felt something unfamiliar in his throat. He had prepared for negotiations. For public scandals. For corporate wars. He had not prepared for this. "Yes," he said softly. "I am." Daniel tilted his head. "Why didn't you look for us? Why did you abandon Mama?" The questions were simple. But it sliced deeper than any accusation. Jin-woo glanced at Marlena. She didn't rescue him. She didn't soften the moment. She let him answer. "I didn't know you existed." David frowned slightly. "Did you know Mom was pregnant when you abandoned her?" Silence. Jin-woo swallowed. "No." Daniel crossed his arms. "But you left her." There was no anger in his voice. Just observation. That made it worse. Later that evening, Marlena and Jin-woo spoke privately for the first time in 7 years. They stood on a quiet terrace overlooking the Han River. The city lights reflected on the water like broken stars. "You could have told me," he said finally. She looked straight ahead. "You had already decided I wasn't worth fighting for." That's not true. She turned to him slowly. You told me I failed you. He flinched. You said I couldn't give you a son. His silence confirmed it. You ended our marriage over something I was already carrying inside me, she continued. I was sitting in a hospital hallway when you called. That hit him like a physical blow. You were at the hospital. Yes. The weight of that truth settled heavily between them. You didn't even ask how I was, she added quietly. Jin-woo closed his eyes. For 7 years, he had built power. Expanded internationally. Secured political alliances. But none of it prepared him for this realization. He had abandoned his pregnant wife. And never looked back. When they returned to the lobby, the twins were waiting. Daniel approached first. So what happens now? He asked. Jin-woo hesitated. He had never hesitated in business before. But this wasn't business. I would like to get to know you, he said carefully. David raised an eyebrow. As our father? Yes. Daniel exchanged a glance with his brother. We'll think about it. Jin-woo almost smiled. They were already negotiating. Like him. But stronger. Because they had something he didn't. Moral clarity. Marlena stepped forward. This changes nothing about custody, she said calmly. They are my sons. I know, he replied. But I want to be part of their lives. She studied him carefully. For 7 years, she had survived alone. Worked double shifts. Built her own investment firm quietly from the ground up. And now, the man who once discarded her wanted access to the very children he had rejected before they were born. You can try, she said. But understand something clearly, Jin-woo. Her voice was steady. You don't get to choose legacy over love twice. The twins stood beside her. Strong. Unshaken. His blood. Her strength. As they walked away together, Jin-woo remained still. For the first time in his life. He wasn't the most powerful person in the room. He was simply a father. Trying to earn a place he once threw away. And this time, there would be no easy negotiations. News travels fast in powerful families. Even when no one speaks publicly. 2 days after the DNA confirmation, Park Jin-woo received a message from his mother. Not a request. A summons. Bring her. He knew exactly who she meant. The Park family estate stood tall and intimidating, just as it always had. Cold marble floors. Portraits of ancestors lining the walls. Generations of power staring down like silent judges. Marlena walked beside Jin-woo with calm composure. She had once walked these halls as a nervous young wife desperate to be accepted. Not anymore. Daniel and David walked confidently between them. They were not intimidated. They were observing. Jin-woo's mother sat in the grand sitting room like a queen awaiting an audience. Her expression did not change when she saw Marlena. But her eyes sharpened when she saw the boys. So, she said slowly, the rumors are true. Daniel stepped forward first. Are you our grandmother? The boldness caught everyone off guard. The older woman studied him carefully. The resemblance was undeniable. She masked her reaction quickly. This is highly inappropriate, she said coldly. You should have informed us. Marlena's voice was steady. You informed me before divorcing me? The air tightened. Jin-woo's mother ignored the question. She turned to her son instead. This is dangerous. For whom? Jin-woo asked. For the family, she replied sharply. For our reputation. For the business. Daniel frowned slightly. Are we bad for business? The innocence of the question made the room uncomfortable. His mother hesitated. No. David tilted his head. Then what's the problem? For the first time in years, the powerful matriarch of the Park Empire had no immediate answer. 3 days later, the headlines exploded. Secret heirs of Park Corporation. Did Chairman Park hide twin sons for 7 years? Who is the mother? The leak had come from somewhere inside the corporation. Speculation spread like wildfire. Stocks fluctuated. Investors demanded statements. Jin-woo stood in his office staring at the news coverage. His mother entered without knocking. "This is exactly what I warned you about," she said. "They are not the problem," he replied calmly. "The secret was." She stared at him. "You're choosing them over stability." "I'm choosing the truth." The word surprised even him. Across the city, Marlena watched the same headlines. Daniel looked at her. "Are we in trouble?" She knelt in front of them. "No." "Will he protect us?" David asked quietly. Marlena hesitated. "I don't know," she answered honestly. The following weekend, Jin-woo invited the twins to spend the afternoon with him. No press. No security parade. Just a private park along the Han River. Daniel brought a chessboard. David brought a notebook. Jin-woo came empty-handed. Daniel set up the board. "Do you know how to play?" he asked. "Yes," Jin-woo replied. Daniel smirked slightly. "Let's see." They played in silence. 10 minutes in, Jin-woo realized something shocking. Daniel wasn't just good. He was strategic. 3 moves ahead. Just like him. Meanwhile, David sat beside them, sketching quietly. "What are you drawing?" Jin-woo asked. David turned the notebook around. It was a building. Tall. Elegant. With the name Marlena Global Holdings written across the top. Jin-woo looked up sharply. "You know about that?" David nodded. "Mom owns part of your expansion project, right?" Jin-woo blinked. "Yes." David closed the notebook. "She worked hard for that." There was pride in his voice. Protectiveness. The boys weren't there for money. They were there for their mother. And maybe to test him. After Daniel won the chess match, he looked at Jin-woo directly. "You're not as cold as I thought." That was the closest thing to approval he had received. Just as things began shifting. Another headline surfaced. Marlena spotted with international tech mogul Lee Min-suk. Photos accompanied it. Marlena at a formal event. Standing beside a tall, charismatic businessman. Lee Min-suk was young. Successful. Powerful in his own right. And smiling at her in a way that was not professional. Jin-woo stared at the images longer than necessary. His chest tightened unexpectedly. Jealousy. A feeling he had never allowed himself before. His mother noticed immediately. "You see," she said sharply. "She is opportunistic." "No," Jin-woo replied quietly. "She's free." That realization unsettled him more than anything. He had once believed Marlena would always orbit around him. Now she had her own world. Her own power. And possibly someone else. That evening, Marlena met Lee Min-suk privately. He offered her something massive. A partnership abroad. Expansion into Europe. Relocation. A future far from the Park family shadow. It would mean leaving Seoul, he said gently. "And leaving him?" she asked. Lee didn't answer. He didn't need to. That night, Marlena stood by her apartment window watching the city lights. 7 years ago, she left this city broken. Now she had the power to leave it victorious. Daniel walked up beside her. "Are we moving?" She looked down at him. "Would you want to?" David joined them quietly. "Does he want us to stay?" She didn't know the answer. Across the river, in his penthouse office, Park Jin-woo stared at the same skyline. For the first time in his life. He was afraid of losing something that wasn't business. Not reputation. Not power. But family. And this time. He wasn't sure money could fix it. The Park family estate was colder than ever. His mother stood in the grand hall, fury barely contained. "You will deny this," she demanded. "Look at what this spring-up surprise has caused the family reputation and business. They are illegitimate." Jinwoo's jaw tightened. "They are my sons. You embarrassed this family for that woman." He didn't flinch. "No. I embarrassed this family 7 years ago." Her eyes widened. "You chose bloodline over love," he continued calmly. "You taught me that legacy mattered more than loyalty. And you agreed." "Yes," he said quietly. "And I was wrong." Silence. Servants froze in place. His mother stepped closer, lowering her voice. "If you recognize those boys publicly, investors will question stability." "They already are," he replied. "And I don't care. You will destroy everything your father built." Jinwoo met her gaze steadily. "No. I'm protecting what I should have protected from the beginning." For the first time in his life, he walked past her without bowing. And she realized something terrifying. Her son was no longer hers to control. That night, he called Marlena for private talks. The next afternoon, every major network in Seoul gathered. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. The Park Group logo gleamed behind the podium. Park Jinwoo stepped forward in a tailored black suit. But there was no coldness in his expression today. Only resolve. "I have called this conference," he began, voice steady, "to address rumors regarding my personal life." Flash. 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 "Yes. I have twin sons." Gasps rippled through the room. "They are 7 years old." A reporter shouted, "Why were they hidden?" He didn't hesitate. "They were not hidden. I failed them." The room fell silent. 7 years ago, I made a decision based on pride and family pressure. I ended my marriage because I believed my wife could not give me a son. Murmurs grew louder. He raised a hand. "I was wrong. Not only did she give me sons." His voice paused briefly. "She raised them alone with strength and dignity." The doors at the back of the conference hall opened. And Marlena walked in. Not as a scandal. Not as a victim. But as a CEO in her own right. Poised. Elegant. Unbreakable. The twins walked beside her in matching navy suits. The entire room froze. The resemblance was undeniable. Jinwoo stepped down from the podium. He didn't stand above them. He stood beside them. "These are my sons," he said clearly. "David Park and Daniel Park. And this is Marlena, the woman I abandoned for my selfishness. No shame. No hesitation. She is not a mistake in my past. She is the strongest person I have ever known." Cameras captured everything. The twins looked up at him. Not smiling. Not angry. Just watching. Daniel stepped forward slightly. "Are you proud of us?" he asked quietly, unaware his microphone picked it up. The entire nation heard it. Jinwoo knelt. On live television. "I am proud of you every day I didn't get to see." And for once. The powerful CEO looked like a father. Later that evening, away from cameras, the four of them sat in Marlena's living room. No board members. No media. Just truth. "You can't just appear and expect everything to be normal," Marlena said calmly. "I know. You hurt us. I know." The twins looked between them. David spoke first. "If we choose you, do we have to live in that big scary house?" Jinwoo blinked. "No. Do we have to stop calling Mama Mama?" His chest tightened. "Never." Daniel crossed his arms thoughtfully. "If we choose you, will you choose us even if Grandma doesn't?" The room went still. Jinwoo didn't hesitate. Every time. The boys looked at each other silently. A twin language only they understood. Then David walked forward. We don't want to choose. Jin-woo frowned softly. What do you mean? We want both. Marlena's breath caught. Daniel nodded firmly. If you want to be our father, you stay. You don't leave again. And you don't make Mama cry. Jin-woo's voice broke slightly. I won't. The twins stepped closer. Not fully hugging him. But not walking away. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was fragile. And real. Days passed. Weeks passed. Months passed. Jin-woo showed up consistently. No grand gestures. No diamonds. No pressure. Just presence. One evening, as the twins played in the next room, he stood on Marlena's balcony overlooking Seoul. I don't expect you to come back to me, he said quietly. I know. I only want the chance to rebuild trust. She studied him carefully. 7 years ago, she had loved him blindly. Now she saw him clearly. Flawed. Learning. Trying. You broke something that may never be what it was, she said. I know. But. He looked up. Her eyes softened. I am not the woman you left. I don't want that woman, he replied gently. I want this woman standing here. Silence stretched between them. Then she stepped closer. Love is not enough, she said. It never was. What do you need? Respect. Partnership. Equality. You have it. And your mother? He exhaled slowly. She will adapt. Or she won't. And if she doesn't? Then she loses me. That was the moment. Not the kneeling. Not the press conference. Not the scandal. But this. Choice over control. Love over pride. Marlena reached for his hand. Not fully intertwining their fingers. Just touching. Then we try, she said softly. His eyes closed briefly in relief. Not victory. Not possession. Hope. 2 years later. The Park Group stabilized. Investors respected transparency. His mother remained distant, but powerless. The twins kept their surname. Park. By choice. And Jin-woo never once asked them to change their names. Instead, he changed. Weekend soccer games. School recitals. Cooking badly in Marlena's kitchen. Laughter replaced silence. And one evening, as the four of them walked through Seoul under golden streetlights, David tugged his sleeve. Father? Jin-woo looked down. Yes. You didn't leave. He smiled softly. Not this time. Marlena watched them walk ahead. And for the first time in years. Her heart felt light. Because forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was power. And love. Real love. Was never about giving a man a son. It was about raising a family that chose each other. Every single day. If this story touched you and made you question your everyday life, go ahead and share it so that it can reach more people. Like this video if you believe redemption is earned, not given. Subscribe for more unforgettable Afro-Korean romance stories filled with twists, emotion, and powerful second chances. And tell me in the comments, if you were Marlena, would you have opened your heart again? Let's hear you in the comments section. And if you are new here, don't just watch and go away, go ahead, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification button for jaw-dropping emotional Afro-Korean romance stories.